they heard that they're going to resubmit plans on James Hall Road?
They already resubmitted them.
They are?
They resubmitted them.
Any objections?
The plans are pretty much exactly the same, except they just reduced the number of units.
Gail.
60 units.
Hello, how are you?
But it's the
How you like these quotes?
Huh? That guy, I mean,
All right.
my husband says he makes some time and just watch.
I am going to call this meeting, regular meeting of the Stratford Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission, October 19th, to order. Before we get into the agenda, gentlemen, there's just a small matter of business that we have to take care of. I am going to be stepping down as chairman, and I will have the vice chairman, Mr. Fay, take my place. I would like to make that move by vote of acclamation. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed? Mr. Fay, you have the chair.
You just have to appoint a vice chair.
Since I can't be vice chairman and chairman, I'd like to suggest Mr. Hodick be named vice chair by acclamation. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, done. All right. Have you had a chance to look at the minutes from last month's meeting? Any changes, corrections? No. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whole business.
I'll make a motion to take application 2013-1M2 off the table.
Second? Okay, it's off the
So we
table.
have to say aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are any representatives of Stratford Development here? Okay. I believe we're all familiar
I have a
with
question.
this.
You first.
Your company is going to be the permittee of record. It will be going to Stratford Development Corporation? Yes. Okay. So this was a question that came up with Commissioner Hoydick at the last meeting in terms of management, and basically, who do we call?
You all alluded to that last time, and on the town
You're the owner, though, of the property of record,
Lot 2 and 3, we are the owner of.
of the parcel that we are going to be permitting currently. You will be the owner of fee. Okay.
And responsible in all aspects of the permit.
Because we can't give a permit to somebody who's not the owner of it. So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, I'm glad Mr. McCann brought that up, because that was my concern. You have an approved application already. This is just a modification of an approved application. In all reality, the application is in lesser size and scope as what we approved prior. My concern, and it was expressed by Mr. McCann, that being such a sensitive area, and we know what it's like down there on the south end with the type of growth and the invasives that come in there, and you're going to get litter, you're going to get sediment. All we want is just an acknowledgement and a guarantee that what we have set up now and what's been approved will be maintained over the years. That's all my concern is. Other than that, it's a cut and dry application.
Any other questions? Mr. McCann.
Did you want to say something before?
We agree with everything you just said, and take responsibility as we have in the past and going forward. There's no issue with anybody's concerns on that. And that document is in book 3877 on page 175 to 189, just so that you understand, even the folks on lot 1, which we don't own, have entered into an agreement with us so that we both make sure that we take care of what we're supposed to, because we affect each other.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administrator, you're okay with all the information that you have up to date, and you feel that it's very solid?
I am.
Okay.
I
And
am.
I'll,
Mr. Casey did a very thorough job in laying out the timeline of previous approvals and the conditions that went into those approvals. I was supplied with all the previous permits themselves. And so this is really just a modification, bringing it back to the scope that was originally proposed when they first came in for the application. I really don't have any problems with it, but I am going to go through the permit before I issue the modification. Go through the permit with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that we've, outlined moving forward exactly who's going to be responsible for the operation and maintenance should something go wrong.
was there a bond available or
There
part?
was, I do not believe there was.
Yes, we posted 48,000, I think, to change, which is still in effect.
To this commissioner or to zoning?
For this
Oh, no, there was, yes.
For this commission? Okay.
$48,200 cash performance fund. Was any of that returned at this point?
We never, we asked everyone to leave it alone and not request anything be changed, keep it in place, and let us go forward with our
So we'll hold that. We'll keep that as a term of the permit, obviously, until all work has been completed on all lots.
whatever your conditions are for that is fine.
Based on that, I'll make a motion to approve as,
Motion to approve, second. Mr. Blake, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sure.
All set.
go listen to the
Thank
debate
you.
now.
That's perfect.
You can go listen to the debate now. Listen to Laurel Hardy.
Next item. Violation number 2016-7A. Conducting regulated activities, clear cutting, within the upland review area of an inland wetland without the benefit of a permit. Site address 350 Whippoorwill Lane, Stratford, Connecticut. Assessor's reference map 50.16, Block 1, Lot 82. Violator, Shania Wolf.
Mr.
Anyone
Chairman,
here?
I'll make a motion to take violation 2016-7A off the table.
Second. favor?
Aye.
Oh, you're here on behalf of the petition? Okay. You are? Is your microphone on?
I don't know. It doesn't sound like it is. Maybe that. No, that one's not.
Grab that mic there. Yeah.
That's fine.
Try your name again, please.
Brian Hirsch.
Same address?
Same address.
Okay.
Well, I first want to just bring things. Sorry. I first want to bring things back for a second and look at kind of a timeline of what exactly occurred with this violation. I tried to piece everything back together for my benefit and yours, being that I was on maternity leave while this actually took place. So if we go back, the actual violation was noted sometime at the end of May of this year, and John Rozatsky, excuse me, from Planning and Zoning, issued a cease and desist order to Ms. Wolf for the clear cutting of the trees on the subject property. At that time, the cease and desist order, let's see, the cease and desist order requested that regulated activities be stopped, being that they were being completed without a valid Stratford inland wetland permit. John Rozatsky also requested that the site be immediately stabilized to prevent erosion, and any additional work on the site should cease immediately. And prior to conducting any more regulated activities on the property, the applicant was supposed to come forward to inland wetlands for a permit. That cease and desist order was followed up on May 19th after an inland wetland meeting with a wetlands violation letter, which was issued to the violator. And the following things were ordered. 1, you shall hire a soil scientist to map and determine the exact wetlands boundary. 2, prepare and present a restoration plan for the area. 3, failure to comply with this order will lead to fines and legal action. 4, the plan shall be presented to the commission at their next meeting held on June 15th, 2016. Now, by the June meeting, I was back from maternity leave and expecting to see the violator here presenting a restoration plan. That did not occur. And as far as I know, there was pretty much radio silence between June and August, the end of August. At the end of August, I received an email from Jay Hibansky in Planning and Zoning stating that Mr. Hirsch was going to be meeting with him to discuss development of the property. And so from there, I was able to get Mr. Hirsch's email address, and we started corresponding. At that time, I told Mr. Hirsch that he had to show up at the next inland wetland meeting in September and present a restoration plan, or he can wait till the October meeting and present a full restoration plan along with an inland wetland, a complete inland wetland permit for any development he wanted to do on the property, so that we could handle the violation together with any development he was proposing. However, all I received at this point was a landscaping plan for the property, which I just handed out to all of you. So at this point, I have not seen a complete application for what you intend to do on the property. And from what I'm looking at, as far as the landscaping plan, it's pretty much bare bones, and I have a lot of questions in regards to it. So I'm going to give the commissioners, take a second and look it over if you want, but I definitely have many questions that need answering.
I don't know that we're going to go further with development of the property. We just want to make restoration and do our wetlands planting.
Okay.
I don't know that.
So you think development is...
I don't know. I don't know if it's possible or not.
Okay.
The person that sold the property to me kind of sold me a bag of goods, so there's a lot of issues with it.
Does anybody have any questions before I allow Mr. Hirsch to present his restoration plan?
I would like to hear your response. or your opinion of it.
Of the restoration plan? Let me get out my notes. No, it's in here. Okay. So first of all, one of the things I would want to see in a restoration plan, first, I would like to know what was the square footage that was actually affected? What was the square footage of wetlands that you disturbed during the...
There was no square footage of wetlands. We didn't go into the wetlands if you read the soil scientist report.
So it was all upland review area?
Correct.
But still, I would need to know
We're
what...
well away from the wetlands area.
It does. I still need to know what disturbance you made in the upland review area.
I'd be more than happy to meet you on site to show you if you'd like.
That would be fine, but I need numbers.
Okay.
I need to see it in numbers. So I need to know the square footage that was affected of, you're saying it wasn't wetlands, but it was upland review area. So I would need
Correct.
to know what that square footage was. And I need to know from the plans what is the exact square footage that you're restoring. Because if it is a true restoration, we should obviously be getting back what was...
I have that. I emailed that to you. The restoration map?
And that's what I'm looking at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't say anything on here about what the square footage is that you're
Oh, okay.
restoring. We would need some kind of maintenance plan to ensure that you're going to be monitoring the plants and making sure that they actually take.
What's the water restrictions here right now in town? Just because of the drought? Because I know in a few towns there's no...
I'm not aware of any. I'm not sure if I haven't issued any. Does anybody else know of any water restrictions?
None.
And obviously now it's going to be rather difficult to start planting anything.
No, it's actually it's the best time to plant is the fall. So not a...
Yeah, but we have to have an approved plan, and I'm not going to be able to approve this
understood.
tonight.
Yeah.
So by the time we approve it, it's November.
Okay.
And after you're starting to get into a time of frost. You're not going to be able to plant at the end of November. So this might end up getting pushed off until spring.
So square footage of restoration area and then square footage of area affected?
Correct. And also, I think it would be worthwhile to have either, I don't know if your soil scientist is also a qualified arborist, but find out based on the stumps which trees were there. So that way you're replanting species that were already there. Because, I mean, you're showing that you're going to be replanting different species. You've got sugar maple, shadow blow, dogwood, which is all well and good, but I don't know what was there before. I'd like to know, get an idea of what actually,
Yep.
it needs to be in the same character of what currently exists and what did exist prior. I also think it would be prudent to have either your surveyor or soil scientist immediately go out and place conservation posts, markers along where the actual wetland ends. So in the future, this isn't going to be a problem. We know where the wetlands are. We can identify them readily. We know that you're going to obviously have a 250-foot setback from those wetlands as upland review area. Also, in the plan, it shows that you're restoring a portion of the area to meadow. What was that area beforehand? Was that also all wooded? I believe
Some of it was underbrush, some of it was prickers, some of it was sumac.
Is there a reason for restoring it as meadow?
It's just this guy, ELS, does this restoration stuff for a lot of towns. Matter of fact, he
Okay.
does it for Stratford as well.
I'm not
So-
saying it's a bad thing. I was just
Yeah,
curious.
no, I don't know. I think they just something indigenous that they plant. Some kind of a meadow mix or something.
I think it would be a good idea for the commission to ponder that. We want there to be a meadow there. Because I honestly, I'm not familiar with what it looked like beforehand. So we'd have to consider the effects of having a meadow there. Is it going to provide the same amount of
I'm not opposed.
water
I'm
infiltration?
not opposed to planting it either. It
Okay.
doesn't matter to me. That was just what I guess they typically do. With these.
So, in my opinion, moving forward, I think we need to decide on a few things. First of all, I think we need those answers from you on square footage, and we need this needs to be a more robust restoration plan. I want to make sure that what we're replanting is keeping in character with what was there originally. And we also need to talk about fines. Obviously, it was known that there were wetlands on this property. Even if you Google the property, it comes up with documents on Zillow showing the actual real estate listing, and it shows a map with wetlands on it. So, in my opinion, it would be hard to not know, purchasing this property, that there were wetlands on it. So, I think we need to decide on a fine as well for the offenses. Now, from the cease and desist order that I read before, each of those could technically represent its own violation. So, well, first of all, you have the obvious work without permit in an upland review area. So that would be violation 1. And then we had a failure, pretty much, to comply with the order by not showing up at the next commission meeting. So you're looking at 2 distinct offenses. Each of those can carry a fine of up to $1,000. So I'm honestly not familiar with how we've handled violations in the past. This is really the first one I've seen to such an extent. Would the commission like to have discussion about what to issue as far as a fine?
Have you discussed this with the town attorney?
I have not been able to get a hold of him to help out with this.
My suggestion would be that maybe we at least approach the town attorney, and if nothing else, getting some information from him in terms of if we are going to carry this to a level of fine, make sure that in fact the finding has been substantiated to be able to do that. I have one other question. Help me out with this. I'm unclear. Is there or has there been a soil scientist on this property, and is there a certified?
There has. I have a letter.
When was that done?
I believe I received it in August. I'm not sure when the report was actually compiled. Give me a second.
So my thing is, I haven't seen it. Do we have, or do you have the soil types that are on the property?
Yes. All right, so this was Soil Investigation Report, May 28th, 2016. I'll read it. This is from Otto Thiel, professional soil scientist. I conducted an on-site investigation of the soils on the vacant property that is located at 350 Whippoorwill Lane in Stratford, Connecticut on May 28th, 2016. The examination for inland wetland soils was conducted in the field by inspection of soil samples taken with spade and auger. The definitions of wetlands and intermittent water courses used are as follows. Inland wetlands in Connecticut are lands, including submerged lands, which consist of any of the soil types designated as poorly drained, very poorly drained, alluvial, and floodplain by the NCSS. Intermittent water courses are to be delineated by a defined permanent channel and a bank and the occurrence of 2 or more of the following characteristics. A, evidence of scour or deposits of recent alluvium or detritus. B, the presence of standing or flowing water for a duration longer than a particular storm incident. And C, the presence of hydrophytic vegetation. The wetland boundaries were marked in the field with flags numbered 1 through 7. The wetland soils consist of Ridgeberry, Leicester, and Whitman soils, extremely stony. The non-wetland soils consist of Charlton Chatfield Complex, very rocky, Polish Chatfield Rock Outcrop Complex, and earthodense, smooth. The soil map units contain inclusions of other soil types. The results of this investigation are subject to change until accepted by the Stratford Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission. Would you like to see it?
One of the concerns I have, and what we've had with these types of upland clear cutting and adjacent to a wetland, particularly it says wooded wetland, and its identification on this particular document is swamp. Those are the areas where, I don't know if you can maybe review at your leisure the soil scientist report. Normally that's where our impacts are seen, and anything that has a muck or an Adrian type soil, because as you may or may not know, that a matter of millimeters of mineral soil over those can completely change the character of that area. And if it might be a question that can be posed to the soil scientist to see, A, if he has been in there to do that kind of a transect or do that kind of cross-section, and then I think then see what his evaluation for remediation would be. Again, not trying to make more work, but I think the soil scientist is going to have the most proximate and highest level of information for us in terms of soil impacts. And maybe that might be something we would want to see or obtain.
I agree.
Okay, so you are going to get back to us with the areas clear cut and the areas to be restored, correct?
Yeah.
And some kind of maintenance plan for these plantings. Also, some comparison between what you're proposing to plant and what was cut down. And are you going to get someone to mark the wetland boundaries?
They've been marked, but I can post them with wood posts if that's what you're asking. 4x4 posts or something?
Yes, and I actually have conservation plaques that you can pick up
Okay.
in my office.
Okay.
Okay.
Where do you want them located? Right next to the flags?
If you do, I think if you do a post at each of the flags with the conservation marker on it.
We are going to talk to the town attorney about fines, if any, and all that stuff. So we're not going to do anything with that tonight. Will you be able to get back to us by the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want me to do something else with the soil scientist? I didn't understand what you were asking.
So what Bill is saying is that because of the fact that these trees were pretty much devastated from the area, it can change the soil characteristics of the swampland, the wetland itself. And we want to know if we're seeing a changeover.
Well, again, we're not the contractors to the soil scientist.
Mm-hmm.
You may, as the administrator, make some sort of a understanding with the applicant or the property owner to be able to talk directly to the soil scientist and ask those questions.
Okay.
So
It'll
you'd have
kind
to
of
give,
eliminate the necessity for another report and another bit of cost.
right.
And it's probably the best way of getting information. You don't have to do a back and forth.
Mm-hmm. I believe actually.
In most likelihood, it's going to require, in my opinion, him to go out and maybe take another look to get the additional information that we're looking for.
If I'm not mistaken, the neighbors in the area have actually hired their own soil scientists to survey the area as well. So I'm wondering if their hired soil scientist has any recommendations on the existing plan. So I kind of have two parties I can work with at this point.
Okay, but as far as he's concerned, it's okay if she talks to you about talking to your guy, and you can,
course.
you two can figure it out,
Of course.
okay? All right, so, we have a motion to table this? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table it, pending further information from staff in terms of, what our boundaries are with fines and penalties for this, and also to get a more clear-cut picture of what remediation is going to be from the violator and who he hires to give him the guidance on how to restore what was damaged. So, I mean, that would be my motion.
All right, we have a motion to table, second. Mr. Blake, discussion? All in favor? See you next month.
All right, thank you.
New business, no new business. Staff report?
We had one administrative permit issued. It was the IWWA permit number 2016-11A, installation of an in-ground pool and spa within a regulated upland review area at 275 Judith Terrace. Assessor's reference map 60.19, block 1, lot 2. The applicant, Joe and Christine Wright. This was really, it was pretty simple. They were wanted to install an in-ground pool in an area set well back from the wetlands. It was about 200 feet away, yet still within that 250-foot upland review area. So I worked with the applicant to obtain their plans and best management practices for how they were going to be excavating and making sure that they had silt fencing around any areas downhill to make sure that the wetlands were protected. As part of that permit, I also included the state regulations for pool water management. So at the end of the season, when you dump your pool water, what do you do with it? I included all of that in the permit document and made sure that it clearly stated that the applicant must abide by the Connecticut deep regulations for pool drainage. I think that was really only the really only notable thing from that permit. Does anybody have any questions on it?
Yeah, I do. Just because of the area. I mean, Judith Terrace is the area that I think was close to where that five.
Correct.
Right.
And that's why I was so stringent with them.
Is how close is that in perspective to what we ruled on? And
It's well, first of all, this was set much further back from the wetlands and watercourse itself.
just because
this was
of-
hundreds of feet versus right on top of it.
all right.
So, and it was the area of disturbance was only a couple hundred square feet,
Okay.
as opposed to
No, I know it's
Yeah.
really not in that scope, but because of what transpired prior.
Yep, and I thought it best to be uniform. I know that, most of the time we take the 100-foot setback from the wetlands, but being that this is part of the Freeman Brook watercourse,
Right.
which was the same watercourse that we regulated for
Right,
450 James
right,
Farm Road as
right.
250 feet, because that's what we have the power to do given our regs. I made it the same setback for this property as well. We need to be consistent. So the applicant was more than happy to abide.
Okay.
They came in, it was a simple process.
Yeah, fine.
I have a question for you. Is building inspection helping you out with these?
Building inspection
things
helping
like
me out with
putting in dry wells for the back flushing and all the rest? Once upon a time, when I was sitting in that chair, they were helping us out a lot by, putting in the permits or making requirements for dry wells or the depending upon the type of flushing system, whether it was a cylinder, whether it was sand.
Yeah.
And they were watching it and kind of helping the conservation administrator out ever so slightly.
Well,
Is that currently happening?
no, but now that I know that it has been in the past, I'm going to
Well, you can
get,
tell them
get back on the ball with that, because that would be very helpful.
that an old employee said
Yeah.
that they should be, that's part of the building permit.
Mhm.
And it should be, if nothing else, redoubled, from what your recommendation is.
Yep, and I mean, I know they had to go through zoning as well, so I'm not sure if buildings came in through that. I really don't know.
I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but the conservation office even went so far as to draw drawings for the building inspection office, making typicals, in terms of what would be best suited for certain areas.
Yeah.
And apparently that's no longer used. But you may want to just talk to them.
I will.
Brian still there?
Yeah, Donovan.
Okay.
And I think part of the problem is my office isn't in town hall. I don't ever see these people, which is kind of unfortunate.
Well, if
but I'm going to make
you tell him that I said that to you, you're going to have to wait 5 minutes for him to stop coughing and get his breath.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Commissioners Forum?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is one more thing. We have a new commission member, Miss Ariana Fine. She was appointed by town council. I received her the letter of her appointment just yesterday. So I reached out to her. I left her a voicemail letting her know about tonight's meeting, but I think it was probably just too short notice for her to attend this one. But I'll be sending her, the dates for our last 2 meetings of the year. So hopefully she'll be able to attend those and join us.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Blake.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Adjourned.